Are you ready to get your sports banter on? Brian Hemminger, love child of Albert Einstein and Howard Cosell, with a body chiseled by Zeus himself. Brandon Sharples, a man who could beat Mike Tyson in a spelling bee. Together, they form the At Odds Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the At Odds Podcast, brought to you remotely tonight because Blog Talk Radio was fucking up. So Brandon Sharples and I are recording it off stream, and then we will be uploading tonight's episode a little bit later. So no chat room, no phone calls tonight, but I hope you can still deal with it because we're going to be bringing the heat with some excellent topics for discussion. So I'm your host, Brian Hemminger, and joining me, as always, silky smooth Brandon Sharples. So Brandon, how you doing tonight, man?
Pretty good, man. I'm super pumped for this episode. It does suck we're offline, but I still think we got some really cool content, and I got some pretty cool ideas, and I know you do as well. So I'm hoping to bring the heat, like you said, buddy.
Well,
some blazing sauce.
Yeah. Let's kick it off with the big thing that seemed like everybody's talking about today. XFL is returning. Like WWE's been kind of hinting at it for a while, and I'm not going to lie. I thought it was a joke. I don't know about you, but I kept hearing stuff about, their trademarking XFL again, and I was like, what are they doing? It failed so hard last time. Why would they be doing this? And then boom, big announcement today. They're launching it 2020. XFL is going to be back. So I got to get your thoughts. Vince McMahon's alternative football is returning in 2 years. So what went through your brain when you heard this announcement?
I kind of knew it was coming. I heard through the rumblings that it was coming. I love the idea. I think it's fucking genius. The reason being is that the NFL is still the NFL, still the powerful. This isn't going to overtake the NFL. What it's going to do is give an alternative to the NFL that nobody wanted back then because the NFL is so strong, but they kind of want it now because, one, Goodell's pussified the NFL. There's all these rules and people are getting tired of targeting this, targeting that, quarterback can't be touched, flags here, flags there. On top of everybody kneeling for the national anthem, a lot of the football, the big football bases are conservative and they don't want to deal with that shit. And they have a problem with people kneeling for the national anthem. Whether I agree with that, whether you agree with that, doesn't matter. You got to talk about, we're talking about the large base of the NFL. So ratings definitely dipped hardcore this year. Were they breaking the NFL's bank? No, but it cannot follow that trend. And I think that is why McMahon he's such a business savvy guy, saw that and he's like, we're not going to replace the NFL right now, but maybe we could get an alternative in there and something that would be exciting. So he brought it out. He's bringing back the XFL and I have a bunch of ideas about it. I think I want to hear your thoughts on it before I go into my ideas about it, but I think there's a large market out there and I think that it has so much potential, more than ever. It has more potential now than ever before with the way the internet is and the way that the NFL is kind of limping out of the end of the off season right now. And, a lot of people I love the Patriots, but a lot of people are kind of sick of the Patriots winning the Super Bowl all the time. They feel like there's not enough parity, diva athletes and, a lot of shit's going on right now with pro sports. And this couldn't be a more perfect time for XFL to come. So I'm excited about it. What do you think?
I'm intrigued. I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off because last time was such a miserable failure. But and the other problem is they are bringing back literally the exact same name of the brand that just had huge marketing and everybody tuned in to watch it. And then they went, oh, this is just like watching worse NFL. And then they stopped watching.
I do have to say this real quick, not to cut you off, but they did say that they're going to bring a more established rules and everything. They're trying to make this more legit than the last time. Last time was more gimmicky. Now they're trying to make it more of a legit league, which definitely could bring it.
So the fact that they're doing it in 2020, announcing it a couple years in advance to really refine it and work on it is probably a good idea. But who knows, in 2 years, the NFL could be back and, super strong. But I was interested in the fact that they want nothing to do with the politicization of players. They want nothing to do with players that get in trouble with the law. Like, even if you get a DUI, they said they don't want you in their league.
Yeah.
So that means no Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I think they'll make an exception.
You think?
I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
But I do think that what they're doing there, they're banking on the ratings to continue to decline for the NFL. And that's part of the 2-year wait. Plus, they're trying to refine it, like you said, and get everything perfect and silky smooth. And they're trying to make shit going. They're trying to get shit going in the right direction. And I think they rushed the XFL before, from what I've read.
Oh yeah, I mean, they definitely rushed the XFL. I mean, I thought it was literally going to be like WWE meets NFL, and like it was just going to be nothing but insane, crazy hits, and then cheerleaders that are basically strippers and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I was all pumped about it, and then it was like such a letdown when you finally got to it with the way that they marketed it before. But if they market it like legitimately that this is just off-season NFL, then they might be able to pull it off. But we'll see. I mean, there's still a long road ahead, and they've got a lot of hurdles, I think. But I mean, I'm not going to lie, there are definitely those people that were turned off from the NFL. I mean, literally from back home or just in Wyandotte County where I'm at right now, I know more than 10 people that stopped watching the NFL this year that were big fans because of all the kneeling during the national anthem. But they took such offense to that. A lot of Trump voters that were really pissed off. So I mean, those could be the market that if they choose to, especially if they really promote that you have to stand during the national anthem, or you're out of the league, then that could be something that could intrigue those people.
Fuck yeah, what's more American than wrestling? And these people own wrestling, and they're probably going to cater to a lot of the people that are going to be initially intrigued with the XFL are going to be NFL fans and WWE fans. And they're all the most American you can get, like as far as their patriotic, views on standing and all that other jazz and beer and wings and shit, So, you got the core base. And I think that if you can build on that and bring some people over with a good product, I think it can succeed for at least a while.
So you mentioned that you had some ideas for them. Like,
okay.
I want to hear some of these that you think that could make the XFL work, because I want to know what these ideas are.
Okay. All right. Here's my ideas. They need to have the season run during the summer. Mm-hmm. The reason being is that you're not going to compete with anything other than maybe the NBA playoffs. And, that's only running into June, and Major League Baseball, which outside of the All-Star game, there's really nothing to compete with during baseball. It's a 162 game season. Even the average fan's not going to give a shit. They're not, you're not going to be cutting into baseball time when you're watching the XFL. And, only the diehard, like Cubs and Yankees fans that never miss a game. Even you with the Indians, you may split screen an Indians game and an XFL game. You never know. But outside of maybe the Olympic years, there's nothing that's continuously running that's gonna affect the ratings. If you're looking for the best place to fit, that's the best place to fit. So run it during the summer, and that's one. Two, you need to market these teams in cities that are they want NFL. They wanted not just an NFL, but like a pro franchise, but they don't have one. Or maybe they have just one. Like Memphis. Memphis has the Grizzlies, but they don't really have anything else. You know what I mean? Do they have an arena league? I'm not sure.
Yeah, they probably do. But.
They probably do, but that doesn't mean shit. This is different. This is a higher scale. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So teams like Memphis, and they had a Birmingham team, and I think that's perfect because you're getting the Bama guys down there. You can go into like Charlotte, stuff like that, where they have an NBA team, but they don't have an NFL team. You got to find places that don't have NFL teams. Like, don't be going into LA and New York and, stuff like that. Stay in the decent sized markets like Orlando, and places like that. Savannah, Georgia, maybe even. It's kind of small, but you get my point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you should try to market those places. And that's another thing that I have. 3, I think that they should market, allowing kids to come straight out of high school into playing there. Maybe, or you can establish maybe like a 1-year thing. After 1 year in college, 1 year post-graduation high school, you can offer these kids contracts. And you offer them $100,000 contracts or $25,000 contracts, $50,000 contracts, based on, what they bring, but you have it as incentive based. So like, it's kind of like those loaded incentive contracts these big stars get, but every single player gets it. So you make a certain amount of tackles, you get paid per play. And you create like a different kind of pay system to these guys. So the more they produce, the more money they make. So that means these guys are going to be working harder and harder. And like I said, you can almost make it like a D league for the NFL. NFL, you should have a partnership with the NFL to be able to draft from it. You know what I mean? Or, these guys could try and go on a free agents into the NFL later. So, but I like the idea of, allowing the younger guys to come in there and earn money and earn likeness on their name. And maybe that would be their avenue to get into the NFL, not just college football. It may hurt college football at first, but maybe not. Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too concerned with that. College football will always have their players, and they'll always have an audience for it. But, and plus you're not going to I don't know if you're going to make the XFL huge, like a 32 team league like you did the NFL. You probably just make it like a 10 team league, 5 on the West, 5 on the East type thing, Start off like that. Maybe even 12 teams. Don't go too crazy with it at first, just because you don't want to spread yourself thin. But I like that idea of paying per like stat line, like having like a pay scale to pay these guys. So like say you're the starting quarterback and you win the championship, you have an incentive because you're going to get paid such and such amount. You get paid per passing yard, you get paid per rushing yard, per reception, stuff like that. I think that'd be super cool. And then I think you need to go after. I know that you said that they didn't want any like the DUI guys or anything, but I think you need to go after like marketable ex-college stars as well, like Johnny Manziel or Vince Young's a little old now, but somebody like Vince Young, you know what I mean? Looking at like past Heisman winners that haven't really done a whole lot in the NFL, maybe they could go to the XFL for a little bit of money that are out of the NFL now, or people that are kind of, you can bring a lot of big name guys that are kind of winding down their career. Maybe they can finish it out in the XFL. Things like that. You can have a wide range of people. So you're going to have that name recognition, and you're going to have that new pay scale. You're going to have, cities hungry for their pro sports. And, you're going to have, the ratings. I personally think with those names and everything like that. So that's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I can tell you right now, I really like the idea of allowing players to go straight out of high school as just an alternative. Like if, kids are like, fuck school, I want to play ball. Like Cardale Jones, I didn't come here to go for any learning.
He says, I didn't come here to play no school.
So, you get those players. That's great. I mean, cause there are players like that just literally could give 2 shits about their education. They just want to play. So those could definitely be, an alternative for, and I can answer a couple of those questions or ideas you had. I know that they were thinking of an 8 to 10 team league to start. So that's part of their idea to start. They don't want to, go too crazy with too many teams. And I know that they were planning to have their season start either in January or February. But I think, February would be perfect because, Super Bowl's over, football's over, nobody watches the Pro Bowl, so the season ends at the Super Bowl. So, why not get right back into football again? I mean, there's literally a 7-month break from January until September or August again.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
the only reason I was saying summer is just because the weather and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they'll just start building domes and shit. I have no idea. But I thought the weather would be a little bit nicer. You get people like outside watching the games. Like, you know, you get that little bit of break. You get the NFL draft. You get the combine out of the way, and then you just go from there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, if they started in late February, they could probably make it work in not domed areas. But I mean, it'd be interesting. So
yeah,
but yeah, that's a couple of the things that they mentioned. I don't think that they're going to have the nicknames on the back like they had before. Remember, He Hate Me.
Yeah, keep the gimmick shit out of there.
Yeah. WWE's not like associated with this now. It's more, you know, Vince McMahon just sold a bunch of shares of WWE so that he could just fund this as a side project. And he's supposed to be bringing in some football like people that know what they're doing this time instead of just, so yeah, I'm intrigued. I'll admit I'm intrigued. I think that, you know, Vince McMahon's a competitive person and it really pissed him off that he failed the last time he tried this. So he wants to do it again and do it right. So we'll see if he can do it. But I think, you know, the demand is there. I mean, people are literally like turning the NFL draft into a primetime event with millions upon millions of people just watching dudes get their names called.
Yeah, because people are so like cracked out.
So hungry for it. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, you got any more than football?
So yeah, I think that there is definitely an avenue there. And there's going to be athletes. I mean, it's so competitive to make those final rosters in the NFL. There's going to be players that are, willing to go give it a shot to make a name for themselves. I mean, you saw, you know, Tommy Maddox actually had an NFL career because of his XFL championship. Yeah. So, there's going to be possibilities for guys, to earn an opportunity in the NFL if they want to through the XFL. I mean, as long as they're not marketing it as an alternative to the NFL, instead of, if they do it off season in NFL, that's their best way to do it.
Yeah. No, and I agree. That was my point. Yeah. And they can even, if they want to get a little gimmicky without getting corny, they can even find like studs from like other countries that are like gigantic Samoans or like big ass Germans, like, and they'll be like, oh, the big German with the sack, you know, like shit like that.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff that they could make it go international with like the locations.
Yeah, they can, dude, London loves football, like Europe loves football.
Streamline the rules a little bit, like so that, you know, a lot of people like that get turned off by all the ridiculous amount of rules. So we'll see what they end up doing.
Oh yeah, like go over to London. Oh, he ran for 32 meters. What a run.
So, okay. Anything else you got about XFL before we, roll on to the next topic?
What do you think would be like your ideal location for? You know what they should do? They should move Cleveland Browns to the XFL. Maybe they'll fucking win a game.
I don't think they'd win there either.
Jesus Christ.
I think Vegas. They had a team in Vegas before. I think that would always be a success because they're craving sports franchises. I know that their Las Vegas hockey team's doing really well with the fan base.
Well, they got the Raiders moving to Las Vegas.
Yeah, I know, but I mean they're still not going to be there right away. I think it's still a year or two away. So those people are hungry for football. So yeah, I say Vegas would be a good option. I'd say places like maybe Cincinnati that has a baseball team and is a pretty big city would be a good option. Just stuff like that. I mean, there's plenty of places.
Did you forget they had the Bengals because they're so fucking irrelevant too?
I did.
You're like, oh shit. They do got an NFL team. They just don't ever win anything.
I was thinking they didn't have an NFL. I was thinking Reds, and then I completely forgot they had the fucking Bengals.
Oh well, fuck you, Bengals.
Okay, that one's gonna make the all-time highlight list. Forgetting that the Bengals existed because they sucked so bad this year. Oh man! And then they brought back Marvin Lewis. Jesus Christ!
Oh yeah, what the hell were they thinking? Oh my god! I'm so sick. You know what? This is let's go a little off what we thought we were gonna do. Just real quick.
Okay.
I don't like how, this is sports in general, but specifically the NFL, how it's such a fraternity of guys just hiring their buddies. And that's all it is. They're just giving their buddies $1 million jobs. You got so many failed coaches that were just garbage. And they just, oh, well, he's fired. He's probably just going to go be a defensive coordinator for that shitty team. It's like, okay, how about the fact that the dude's been fired 2 fucking times, 3 times, 4 times? It's time for somebody else to get an opportunity from the outside. It's just that what happens is these guys have just all grown with each other, and they just start hiring each other. And they're always like, oh, he's a great football mind. He's got to be. He's my buddy, and we have the same habits. And that's why you get like shitty guys that just constantly get hired on a regular basis, and it blows my mind. There's certain coaches that just keep getting hired based off who they know. And I know that's how it is for every job pretty much in the entire world. I just wish that it would be a little bit different for professional sports, and we can get some different guys in there, you know, just to give more guys an opportunity to go see what they can do, because there's offensive and defensive minds all over this world. You know what I mean? Why do you have to keep hiring the same dickweeds over and over and again? They keep getting fired from Fuckville. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think about that?
Oh, I'm completely with you. I still remember, Mike Pettin with the Browns when he got hired. I mean, it came out of nowhere. Like, he wasn't expected to be their head coach. But when he brought over Jim O'Neill, like a guy that absolutely did not deserve to be a defensive coordinator because he was his friend. Jim O'Neill was hot garbage. And like literally the Browns defense was atrocious for all the seasons. Even though Mike Pettin was a defensive coach, like this guy was so bad, that he, and then what was hilarious was we played the 49ers that year, the one year, and the Browns defense got like 8 sacks against Blaine Gabbert, and the 49ers hired Jim O'Neill as their defensive coordinator because of that.
Yeah.
And then he went and flamed out in San Francisco too. But yeah, I thought that guy was hot garbage, and he was literally only got the Browns job because he was Mike Pettin's friend. So
it's just,
I know what you mean.
Another guy like, all right, so I'm a huge Florida Gators fan, obviously, and we hired Doug Nussmeier as our offensive coordinator for the last 3 seasons until he just got shit canned with the rest of the losers that we just fired. I looked back at his resume, and so he was Florida's offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. He was Michigan's offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. Alabama's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Washington's offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. Who else did he do that? He came. Fresno State. And then he had he had like a stint one season, I think, with the Rams. Then he was at Michigan State. And then he had some CFL shit going on. My point is that he had nothing. Everywhere he went, the offense went to shit. Yeah, he was getting these big name jobs, and all these coaches are vouching for him as some like offensive genius. He had, in 13 seasons, he only had 4 quarterbacks that threw over 3,000 yards. That's it. And like, all of his quarterbacks were shit. Nobody was good. He came to Florida, and we had like our worst stretch of quarterbacks ever. And that he's supposed to be some offensive guru. And even when he was at the Rams, like all he had was Mark Bulger. You know what I mean? Like, that's who he tutored. Mark Bulger. That was his guy. And like, he just never did shit. Like when he was at Washington, like the only thing he had was Jake Locker. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Locker. I mean, he just had I don't know. I just always saw that he just did not have, like, I thought that Bama's offenses were playing under him, and Michigan's offense went to shit when he was there. And then we hire him as our offensive coordinator when our offense was at its worst. So I was not happy about that. And that was just another one of those things I always used to say, like, it's just another fraternity of guys hiring their buddies, because McElwain and Nussmeier worked together at Fresno, and Michigan, or Fresno and Alabama, and then Florida. And they knew each other for a while. And it was just like one of those things where, like, I just never understood that whole shit with these guys that's hiring their buddies, even though they're trash. I don't know. I would love to be a GM and just hire a fresh new coaching staff. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, you don't hear enough of, guys working their way up from, the high school to college to NFL type of thing. It's always, some guys, some protege as a football or quarterbacks coach, and then he gets promoted to offensive line coach, and then he gets promoted to coordinator and then head coach somewhere. I mean, that's usually the way it rolls. And
yeah, like the big name I could think of that came from college or from high school to college was Gus Malzahn.
Mm-hmm.
He coached that really tough. I think it was Springboro, Arkansas. I think it was. But he coached a powerhouse out of Arkansas, which had like Mitch Mustain as their quarterback. And he was, I don't know if you remember him. He was like the #1 overall recruit. He was like one of the highest rated passers ever to get recruited out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up going to USC and then came to Arkansas, and he was mediocre. Well, he went to Arkansas and then USC. He's kind of mediocre, never had an NFL career or anything, but he was one of those guys that were like, he was one of the highest rated quarterbacks of all time coming out of high school. And that's who Malzahn had. And then Malzahn ended up being, I think he was like the offensive coordinator at Arkansas and moved on to like Auburn and shit. Yeah, it was one of those situations. But yeah, he was one of the few guys that came from high school. And I think Doug Peterson, the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, was coaching high school football like 10 years ago, like that soon.
Mm-hmm.
So there are guys that move up, but it's very fucking rare.
Yeah.
And Doug Peterson was a quarterback in the NFL, so it's one of those things where like, he knew people.
Yep. More the old boys club.
Yeah, the old boys club, man. But all right, let's get back on, what do you want to talk about? The betting thing going on with the NBA?
Yeah, absolutely. So, next up, NBA is supportive of adding, and legalizing betting. I mean, right now there's a bunch of lawsuits trying to challenge the United States position where, right now you can only do like sports betting at Vegas or in, New Jersey. So they want to make it opened up like in 18 different states are filing lawsuits trying to challenge this. And I think what NBA is doing is they're trying to get ahead of the curve because once it gets legalized, it's legalized and they want a piece. So they want to get like 1% of the betting action.
Yeah, which is an outrageous number because Vegas alone did $4.5 billion last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just in Vegas alone.
Well, I think that's all betting, isn't it? Not just NBA. That was like all sports betting, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I thought that was just NBA. Well, it could have been all sports betting, but it doesn't really matter because it's only it's one city.
Mm-hmm.
You do this in all across the country. I bet you can get $4.5 billion off NBA bets.
Like, I'll completely admit this was one of the things that I was actually cool about Trump being president was his stance on sports betting. The fact that he used to own, casinos and, he has been, a factor in sports, with, the AFL or whatever that PFL, whatever league he used to have. And then, he's been working with, Dana White, with WWE, with all kinds of stuff. So
yeah,
I was all aboard hoping that they would, go ahead with, some legalization of sports betting because you know what happens when you ban stuff? You let other people get rich. That's what happens. That's all you're doing. You're allowing, offshore based casinos and sports gambling websites, to spring up and make a shit ton of money. All the poker websites, all the casino websites, all the sports gambling websites, those are the ones that are getting rich.
I have made thousands of dollars sports betting.
Yeah.
Offshore.
Yep.
And I do it, obviously when I have to cash my checks and I have to claim some of that, but, there's nothing you can do about it, honestly.
So,
and, everybody does it. They not Bodog anymore, but Bovada and Sportsbook and all those guys.
Five Dimes and you name it. I mean, there are a ridiculous amount of online sports gambling websites. And so this is, and all those sites are raking it in right now. I mean, it's just like, you know, how the cartels are getting fucking a shit ton of money from marijuana not being legalized in half the states. So.
Well, that's what they do. When you legalize stuff like that, you're not going to kill crime. You're never going to kill crime. But I think you would definitely see.
You take a chunk out of it.
You take a chunk out of it.
You cut one of its legs off. So that's exactly what they should do. I'm all for it. I mean, the only thing that people should be concerned about is clearly, you know, pro players gambling and throwing games and stuff. But you know what? It's so obvious when that shit is actually happening. I can tell you right now, in the UFC, they had one fight where a guy got offered to throw a fight in the past 10 years. And the sports books went nuts. And I'll tell you, it was a preliminary card fight in Korea. And the guy's name was, I think, Taehyun Bang, and he was facing a guy named Leo Kuntz. Like, they were complete garbage fighters, but Kuntz was awful. It literally, his name looked like Leo Kuntz. It's Kuntz. And I thought that, cunt. Yeah, so Bang Kuntz.
I like the Bang Kuntz.
And I, you know, breaking down the fight, I was working on that with Nick, and I was like, what the fuck? You know, Bang is so much better than this guy. I mean, he should be destroying him. And then the betting line all of a sudden completely shifted, and all of a sudden, Kuntz, I'm just going to call him Kuntz because it's funny.
Yeah.
Kuntz went from like a huge underdog to a monster favorite. And all of a sudden, Bang was like plus 250. You put 100 on him, you'd get back 250 in profit plus your 100 back if he won. So clearly something was up. Like, everybody was talking about it on Twitter. And then a year later, we discover that what happened was UFC immediately became alerted to the shift in the betting limits, and they had a talk with Bang about throwing the fight. And if anything like that happened, he was going to be fucked. So he'd better go out and fight like he means it. And you know what? He went out and he won the fight. And all the people, like in the Korean mafia and shit, that had paid him off, they all got fucked. All the money. And I bet Bang because I was like, no one in the fucking planet, not even like my 80-year-old grandpa, should be a plus 250 underdog to Leo Kuntz because this guy is so bad. So I bet Bang at those odds and I won.
Dude, that's ridiculous.
But yeah, so there are already safeguards. Like, you can tell if something shady's happening. And
that's great.
So I think that it'll be fine. I mean,
there's already yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's already like fantasy football going on. There's players in leagues and they're like, you know what? I scored 3 touchdowns today. I cost myself the championship. But who cares? You're getting paid enough money that it's not a big deal.
There's enough underground casinos. There's enough underground sports betting, offshore sports betting. People are still going to be doing the same shit. They're still throwing games now if they were ever throwing games before. And there's still Vegas to throw games for. You know what I mean? So I don't think it will change anything as far as people throwing games. They're already going to throw games. If anything, it's easier to throw games now because you know he's going to recognize it. Because, you know what I mean? They're not really thinking about it.
Well, they do recognize it.
No, I didn't mean to recognize it.
Like the UFC example, I guess it is obvious if something is up.
Yeah.
So they do recognize it. That's what I'm saying is, I mean, and then you can, with the way that the lines shift so quickly when people are betting online, like the sports books immediately will change and flip lines if a shit ton of money comes in one side. So that red flags just start popping up everywhere. So it is obvious when something's up. Like there was like something in some random ass, tennis match like 8 years ago, like in the round of like 128, in some big tennis tournament between two guys that nobody could give two fucks about. And all of a sudden, a shit ton of betting action came in on that one specific fight for one guy. Something was up. So, they're able to tell when things like this happen. So I don't think it'll be a problem at all.
Yeah. And you know what I like? Well, it's kind of an idea that I think it's already been kind of brought up. It's actually something I thought of and then I read. I was like, yeah, kind of right on par with what I was saying. Is they want to add like betting ticket booths at the venues and or places you can place bets like you would at the track, but you can do it at the NBA stadiums and stuff like that. And I think that's genius because guess what? The NFL honestly needs to owe a lot of its growth to like fantasy football over the last 20 years because you get players like women that don't give a fuck about the NFL, but they'll watch because they got a fantasy football team in their work league or with their boyfriend or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like gambling in general, fantasy sports in general have grown the sport. I think if you start putting betting stations in these stadiums, I think you're going to be able to sell even more tickets. And it's going to be a higher revenue for the because you always lose. Because at the end of the day, the casinos are always ahead. So if these venues start acting as their own bookie, they're a bookie pretty much. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna drive revenue from people losing bets, and they're gonna get revenue from people coming to the stadium to gamble and watch the game, and they're gonna get concessions and shit like that. I think it's gonna be a big win for these guys. For anybody that owns these sports franchises, I think it's a no-brainer for them to want to push this through.
Yeah. I mean, just think about, the brackets that people do in the NCAA tournament. I mean,
yeah.
That's just sports betting is always going to be there. So why not get a piece of it?
Yeah.
It's just smart. It's just smart business. You're not going to stop people from betting. All you're doing is leaving money on the table, honestly. So, and you make it harder for me.
Bro, I will fucking bet on anything.
We gotta jump through fucking hoops to do it, but we still do it.
And I'll do it all the time. I will risk my money on these offshore accounts. So I don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. Dude, I will gamble on anything, Hemminger. I will gamble on $2 fucking dollars fighting over a goddamn dead cat in the middle of the road on which one will pull a leg off first. I will do this. I will bet on anything. I really will. So I'm all for gambling. I go for the big scores and everything. Hey, actually, let's each tell a story of how a good win we've had, or something gambling that we've done that exceptional. I know you have one with that one undercard that you
I've had a couple. I'll throw in the one because I think I already talked about the time I won over 10 G's.
But that's back in the day. Now we're actually talking about gambling.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I mentioned that on another show, on another episode.
Yeah.
But I'll throw in the other one. The time I won $4,000. It was a UFC fight night. Matt Brown against Eric Silva, and I had picked 4 underdogs that I thought would win, and I did a parlay of them all, a round robin of them all together. So it was 6 bets, and they were all linked together, six miniature parlays of 2, and they were all underdogs. So basically the way it works is if 2 of your underdogs win, you at least get your money back. Maybe you make a little bit profit. If 3 of your underdogs win, you make a lot. And if all 4 underdogs win, then you go buy a new suit or a car or shit,
Yeah.
That's the way it works, depending on how much you risked. So the night started, first guy on my, Zach Cummings, I think, withstands the early onslaught from this Brazilian jiu-jitsu dude, ends up beating his ass, wins a decision. Darren Cruikshank ends up knocking out Eric Koch, I think. And then, Neil Magny survives and wins a decision against somebody. So I'm 3 for 3, and I'm over at Mike Favreau's house with Kevin, and we're all over there watching these fights. And I am the air is full of electricity, and we're watching this fight, and Matt Brown is fighting Eric Silva in the main event in a welterweight fight. And I am literally screaming at the TV going, fuck him up, Matt Brown. Fuck him up. Kill that motherfucker. Cause I wanted to win so bad. Cause I think I had risked like $75 per parlay. If Brown won, I was going to win $4,000. And I was already guaranteed to win like 1,000, but it was an extra $3,000 if Brown wins. And, Brown gets hit with some punches and he drops and I'm like, no, you motherfucker, get up, you fuck, I'm just screaming. And then Eric Silva starts to get tired because this guy, that's just who that guy is. He doesn't have good conditioning. And I'm like, he's fading. Get him. Stick him now, you fuck. Get him. And literally, I almost knocked the TV over from like jumping up and down right in front of the TV. Both Favreaus are laughing their asses off. And then Eric Silva finally gets knocked out into like the third round. And I'm just like, yeah! And I just screamed. And we ran over to the happy hour and I just bought everybody drinks. I paid like Scott Avery's bar tab and I was just
throwing that's gotta be high. Fucking Christ. How many fruity ass drinks did that fucking guy drink that you had to pay for?
Avery doesn't drink fruity drinks as far as I know.
He's a fruity motherfucker. But listen, dude, I'm telling you right now, sports gambling will turn you into the biggest fucking bigoted, misogynist piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, I will curse women. I will curse children.
Oh, absolutely.
Fucking piece of shit. Fucking Indian can't spell that goddamn word. I had fucking $100 on your ass to win the spelling bee.
Did you bet on the spelling bee?
Nah, just fucking around. But like, tell me how fucking funny that would be.
Tell me how funny that.
Dude, I guarantee you can. I know you can bet on the spelling. There's people that will bet on fucking Little League World Series. But, nah, dude, like, I remember I just put like, I think I put like $100 on and I had a really bad day and I literally had my last $6.30 on Sportsbook. And I was sitting in Brett Lobb's apartment and it was last year when Ohio State beat Nebraska really bad, like 59-0, something like that. Killed them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, fuck this. We're sitting there. We're about to leave. We're drinking beer and they're like, Jarples, let's go. And I'm like, I'm finishing my fucking parlay. Hold on. I made a 13-game parlay that consisted of NBA mixed with college football and NFL. Mixed them all together. And by the end of the night, we come stumbling home drunk and I'm like, holy fuck. I got 10 right. I was like, I got 3 NFL games tomorrow to go. And they're like, no shit. I was like, yeah. Well, I risked $6.30 to win $1,974. That's all. That's a huge return. Mm-hmm. So, I honestly can't even remember what the other two NFL. Oh no, it was I bet the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions under. I bet the under, and they end up going. I think they went to overtime, or the Lions won on like a last second pass, and it was like it ended up being like maybe 13-10, something like that. You know what I mean? It was a really low scoring game. I covered like nothing. But the Kansas City Chiefs were playing the Jags, and I bet straight up that the Chiefs would beat the Jags. Well, very late in the fourth quarter, I'm driving back from Columbus. I'm sitting in the Beamer, and I got Dom Lahutsky next to me. And I'm like I'm not even watching the game because I couldn't have a way to watch it. I was watching the Gamecast on ESPN. And fucking Jacksonville gets down to the 1-yard line. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I knew it. I'm always one game fucking short on these big ass parlays. I can't tell you how many times I've missed winning $20,000 on one game. I'm not even making that up. I hit like 10 of 12 teams all the time, 10 of 11, stuff like that. Well, I got pissed. Well, all of a sudden there's a huge delay and I'm like, why is this play taking forever? All of a sudden it says, Chris Ivory fumbles on the 1-yard line, recovered by the Chiefs. I was like, fuck yes! I almost crashed the car. I was like, no fucking way! He fumbled on the 1-yard line and won me about $2,000 off of $6. I was fucking pumped, dude. I was pumped. I get back to my house and I think, me and Bianca were still a thing at the time and she's pulling in with the kids and I get out of the car and I'm literally raising my hands in the air like I'm fucking Rocky and this is how well my ex-wife knows me. She literally doesn't even have to ask me. She just goes, "You won a big bet today, didn't you?" I was like, "Goddamn right I did." I had my last $6 on there and I won about roughly 2,000, won $1,974 off of $6.30. I've had bigger wins. I've had multiple bigger wins. My biggest win is 7,200, but that one stuck out to me because it was the most improbable. 3 different sports thrown together in one parlay for a low ass amount of money, and I won that. That's a big return. So I'll never forget that. I swear I'll never forget that bet.
Yeah, there's one other one that stands out to me, and it was the luckiest bet. I did a parlay of John Moraga and Yoel Romero for a UFC event. Yoel Romero was fighting Derek Brunson, and John Moraga, I think, was fighting Dustin Ortiz. And I thought both of those guys were going to absolutely steamroll their opponents. It was going to be the easiest parlay in the history of parlays because they were both favorites. And I think it was like an $800 parlay or something that I bet. So I make those plays, and then I watch the fights, and John Moraga's fighting Dustin Ortiz, and he's getting his ass kicked. Ortiz is getting takedowns. Ortiz is just outworking him, and I'm just throwing shit against the wall like, "What are you doing? You're a huge favorite. Fight like one." And then they announced the judges' scores, and they gave him the win. I couldn't believe it. It was the worst judging. I'm going to check something here quick. How the media scored. There's a website called MMA Decisions that tracks like how other people score it. Yeah. The media scores, every single person scoring it in the media gave it to Dustin Ortiz, but John Moraga won a split decision. It was just,
you thought you lost, didn't you?
Oh, of course I thought I lost. And then Yoel Romero fights Derek Brunson. And Yoel Romero, I mean, he's going to be fighting for the middleweight title coming up, and Brunson's headlining the card this Saturday. So, I mean, they're both ended up being very good, but I thought Brunson was hot garbage at the time, and I thought Yoel Romero was 10 times better than Brunson, and this was going to be a cakewalk. Romero being a former, silver medal winning Olympic wrestler, and this elite athlete, he's knocking everybody out. And Brunson comes out, and he starts whooping Romero's ass. He takes Romero down, puts him on his back repeatedly in the first 2 rounds. He's landing shots on the feet. Romero is like running scared. He's down 2-0. He literally can only win now if he knocks Brunson out. And I am just so pissed. I already got insanely lucky on the first half of this parlay. And then all of a sudden, Brunson starts to get tired. And I'm like, "Oh, fucking kill him, Romero, please, please." I think Romero had shit his pants during the fight at some point too. Like he had a brown spot on his freaking shorts. And then out of nowhere, Romero just blasts Brunson and he drops, and then the ref jumps in and stops the fight. I'm just jumping around screaming because I had no business winning either leg of that parlay. It was a terrible parlay, but I still won it. So that was definitely one of my most improbable victories, when I got a gift decision and a 3rd round come from behind knockout. So that one felt pretty good, especially because I was bragging to my boss that how much easy money that was. And then afterwards I got to say, "Easy money, huh?" To him. He was so mad at me because I think he'd picked Ortiz to beat Moraga, and he clearly should have. But yeah, just shit like that. Always feels good when you get lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Really lucky.
Like, how many times have I yelled at the TV just calling people pieces of shit? How are you losing these fucking pieces of shit? Just going off, like, totally, like, something you don't want your mother to see. You know what I mean? Like, "Fuck you, I hope you die. Get raped, bitch." Or I'm like, somebody texted me the other day about what's up with the Vikings when they're getting their ass kicked, and I said, "Yeah, I hope their fucking plane crashes." Like shit like that, like stuff you shouldn't say, but like you're so heated. Sports can do that to you, man. Sports, I feel like, brings the best and the worst out of people.
But the one thing I'll say is it gets you to be passionate about stuff, even not just your own teams. Like with fantasy football, you care about every player, not just your own team. Because if you just only pick your own team players, you're going to lose. So you have to like start caring about other teams. So it's important. And I think same thing happens with sports betting. I mean, if you want to be good at it, you can't just bet your favorite team. I mean, you're going to bet your favorite team. People do it all the time, like the real casuals. But if you want to be a long-term successful, you have to, bet and research and care about every team. So it gets people to care a lot more.
I won a couple parlays this year betting against Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I when it comes to making money and making the best decision for me financially, I don't have any sort of loyalty to my favorite teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things where like the season was over for Florida. So what, you know what I mean? I don't care. I'm trying to make a couple grand so I can stick it in the bank and, you know, help me out financially. I don't care about Florida getting their 5th win. You know what I mean? Like, gives a fuck. I'm betting. I bet a lot of unders with Florida because their offense was so bad, but I definitely bet, I bet against them on the spread a couple times and won from it. But, yeah, I don't have loyalty when it comes to sports if I'm gambling. It's like, to me, it's like, unless it's a Super Bowl, I would have wanted to lose if I bet like against Minnesota and they're in the Super Bowl and they won it because that'd be amazing because I've been waiting my whole life for a Minnesota Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But say it's like 7th game of the season. I have no problem rooting against the Vikings if it means I'm going to win $5,000 on a parlay. Because at the end of the day, it's just football, but that money will help me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care. People may disagree that have a higher moral than me, but I don't have a whole lot of morals when it comes to sports in particular. So outside of being a father, I don't have a whole lot of morals when it comes to people's perception on what should be right. No, I'm just fucking around. I have more morals than that, but I'm talking sports. In
general.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I think that takes us to just our last thing, just a little bit on the UFC event this weekend. They usually try to pull out all the stops when they have pay-per-views or like their big free Fox events. But personally, I think this is one of the weakest Fox shows they've ever put out. It's UFC on Fox 27. The 27th time they've had a free show on a big network Fox. And the main event is a rematch between Derek Brunson, the guy that got knocked out in that story I was telling, and Jacare Souza, a veteran Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappler. So the first time they fought, I believe Jacare knocked him out in 30 seconds, and that was 5 years ago. But since then, Brunson has actually had a lot of success. Like, he's picked up quality wins. He just beat Lyoto Machida in his last fight, knocked his ass out. So he's a good fighter now, and Jacare is 36 years old. So
I actually
could be a different fight.
I don't give a shit at all about this. The main event. I do, however, am very interested in Gregor Gillespie.
Yes.
Because, as you know, I know pretty much everything there is to know about college wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was a national champ.
He was a national champ. He won it up in Auburn Hills in Michigan. And I went there with my brother and I watched that. So when I was growing up, Dustin Schlater, a lot of people that are listening to this that love college wrestling and high school wrestling know him. He started off his college career as a true freshman national champ for Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And he lost one match that entire year, and that was to another fellow Ohioan that went to Central Michigan named Mark DeSalvo. But other than that, Dustin, he avenged that loss. He ran through his entire freshman year, and he won a national title. So his sophomore year, he was heavily favored to win it again, and he had a little bit of a knee injury, but he made it unscathed through the entire NCAA season, which he's in the Big Ten. The Big Ten, you know, I hate the Big Ten in most sports, but wrestling, it's just unbelievably better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. And he went undefeated all the way in, got the 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, gets to the semis, and he wrestles Gregor. And I didn't know a whole lot about him. I know he was a true freshman All-American the year before, and he was tough, but Dustin beat him like 2 or 3 times before that. And he beat him. He beat Dustin Schlater. He killed the giant. And it really kind of sent Dustin's career kind of like in a little tailspin. He never regained form. I think he was injured a lot. He had bad knee and stuff. But yeah, and I ended up watching Gregor win that national title that year. So I saw him win that. And he never won another one. That was his sophomore year. But he's a 4-time NCAA All-American for Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. He's like he has the most career wins. Yeah, he's tough. He's a tough kid, and he's undefeated. He's 10-0, and I love undefeated fighters. I fucking hate people that lose. Yeah. I can't stand losers. Like, everybody hates Mayweather. I love him because he never loses. To me, you lose once, you're fucking dead to me.
And I'll tell you what, Edinburgh has actually produced a lot of good UFC fighters or good MMA fighters, believe it or not. Josh Koscheck came from Edinburgh, if you remember. He was one of the original Ultimate Fighters, and
I watched him win the national title too.
Yeah, ended up working his way up to fighting for the title before he pretty much called it a career. And then there's a kid named Chris Honeycutt that's in Bellator. He's really good.
Honeycutt is from St. Ed's High School in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another Edinburgh kid, and then now Gillespie. And
is Honeycutt undefeated?
He lost once. He got flash knocked out randomly, and but other than that, he's been beast. So I think that was kind of a flukish type of thing.
Yeah.
But Gillespie has been the truth. I mean, this guy, he's got the wrestling, he's got the power, he's got everything. And this is a showcase fight. If you know anything about the guy he's fighting, Jordan Rinaldi, he's basically a Gillespie light. He doesn't have as much power as Gillespie. He's not as good of a wrestler as Gillespie, but he's a wrestling focused guy. And he's got decent submissions. I mean, Gillespie should eat his lunch. And this is a showcase fight for Gillespie big time. So if you're excited about Gregor Gillespie, this is the fight to tune into, because I expect he makes absolute mincemeat out of Jordan Rinaldi. I mean, let me check the betting odds, because I think Gillespie is a monster favorite. So let me check.
Yeah, I mean, Gillespie should be a monster favorite.
Minus 570. So
damn,
you got to risk $570 and profit 100.
Yeah.
And it might be worth it.
So it looks like Gillespie's he got some power, he got some submissions in there, decisions. Look like he's gone distance a couple times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm really excited for him to fight, because I love when wrestlers tear shit up like this.
So yeah, that's definitely a guy to get excited about. There's one other person I would recommend you check out, and that's Mirsad Bektik. He's fighting in one of the last fights on the preliminary card on Fox Sports 1. He just got his first loss, in his last fight, and it was a total fluke thing. I mean, he was destroying Darren Elkins, one of the toughest featherweights on the roster. And after 2 rounds, he was up usually they score him 10-9 on who wins a round, but he had won 10-8, 10-8. I mean, he was destroying Darren Elkins. And then he got a little tired, and Elkins landed a punch and rocked him and finished the fight out of nowhere in the 3rd round. Miracle comeback. So, I think Mirsad Bektik's going to be out for blood against this poor guy named Godofredo Pepe that is just being fed like a lamb to the slaughter. So, highly recommend checking out Mirsad Bektik. I still think the kid, as long as he can protect his chin, has a bright future in the featherweight division. So, yeah, those are the 2 ones I'm recommending people check out. I mean, they're both huge favorites. Bektik's actually a bigger favorite than Gillespie. He's minus 600.
Damn.
So, I know that I'm just recommending you watch squash matches, but I mean, these guys are legit talents, and they deserve to be heavy favorites.
Cool, man. Well, that sounds good. I mean, we want to wrap this up.
Yeah, let's sneak in a couple Hemm's gems if you're down for it.
Yeah, that's on you, man.
Okay. First off, if you haven't watched it, this is on Netflix. It is Bright. It's that Will Smith movie. I was very interested. It's basically like if Lord of the Rings had happened, and then they'd made it to modern times, so that there were still orcs and elves and unicorns and centaurs and humans, and they're all living together. And basically that's how people see races now, instead of black and white and Chinese and shit. There's like the Elven district, and everybody's driving Lamborghinis in LA. And then the orcs are like more, like how they treat black people almost. Because back in the day they sided with the Dark Lord or something. That's why people treat him poorly. And Will Smith is partnering with the first ever orc police officer, because most orcs are in crime and shit. So it's just a really interesting dynamic. And they find like a magic wand that only a person that is a bright is able to use, somebody that can use magic. And the only way you can find out if you're a bright or not is by touching the wand. But if you're not a bright, you explode. And if you are able to use it, you can like literally grant wishes with this thing. So it's a huge deal. So they find the wand, and then they've got to like protect it because everybody's coming for it. So I mean, it's just a really unique movie concept. It's a very interesting universe that they've created, and there's a lot of room to explore it. So I highly recommend checking it out. I mean, it's not without its flaws. The pacing and stuff can be a little off, but I mean, it's just an extremely interesting concept that I think is definitely worth multiple sequels, just because of all the shit they could do with it. So I thought it was really cool, and it was great acting from the orc dude. I forget his name, but who it was, but I mean, he steals the show. He does a really good job.
Nice.
So Bright, and then if there's anything else,
yeah, there is something else. You know who I really want to fuck? I want to fuck Joy Taylor. Do you know who Joy Taylor is?
No.
I'm looking at her right now, and she is Fox Sports. She's that hot ass analyst that works for Fox Sports. I really want to pound her. I want to take her to Pound Town. I'm looking at her right now, and I really want to bang her. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's not really a gem.
She's a gem, and I want to give her my gems. All right, dude. Well,
okay.
That'd be random.
That's random enough. That's a good way to go out, I think. So, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in. You can check us out on our Facebook page at Odds Podcast, our YouTube channel, our SoundCloud channel. We do have a Twitter, but we don't really use it. But yeah, check us out in all avenues. We'll be uploading this to the Blog Talk Radio channel as well, in place of the silent episode that was about 10 minutes long and awkward. That's there right now. So, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
And Brandon, give some shout outs to Miss Belly Up Sports as well.
Yeah, Belly Up Sports, at Belly Up Sports Twitter, bellyupsports.com, Belly Up Sports for Facebook. Yeah, we got a lot of awesome content. I got some blogs going to be coming out. So we're going to be adding some new things. So we're really excited. So keep checking that out. bellyupsports.com. Get the clicks coming, guys. And, we'll get you content, and we got a lot of good things. We got a lot of good things starting up. So appreciate you guys' support. We love you. And, take it away, Brian.
Yeah. Get Rickrolled, motherfuckers.
You